Brethren, assist me to open the lodge. Brother J.W., what is the first care of every Mason?
To see that the lodge is properly tiled.
Direct that duty to be done.
Brother I.G., see that the lodge is properly tiled.
Brother J.W., the lodge is properly tiled.
The lodge is properly tiled.
Brother S.W., the next care.
To see that none but Masons are present.
To order, brethren, in the first degree. Brother Junior Warden, how many principal officers are there in the lodge?
3. The Worshipful Master, the Senior and Junior Wardens.
Brother Senior Warden, how many assistant officers are there?
3 beside the tiler or outer guard, namely the senior and junior deacons and the inner guard.
The situation of the tiler.
Outside the door of the lodge.
His duty.
Being armed with a drawn sword to keep off all intruders and counts to masonry, and to see that the candidates are properly prepared.
The situation of the inner guard.
Within the entrance of the lodge.
His duty.
To admit Masons on proof, receive the candidates in due form, and obey the commands of the junior warden.
The situation of the junior deacon.
At the right of the senior warden.
His duty.
To carry all messages and communications of the Worshipful Master from the senior to the junior warden, and to see that the same are punctually obeyed.
The situation of the senior deacon.
At or near the right of the Worshipful Master.
His duty.
To bear all messages and commands from the Worshipful Master to the senior warden, and await the return of the junior deacon.
Brother Junior Warden, your place in the lodge.
In the south.
Why are you placed there?
To mark the sun at its meridian, to call the brethren from labour to refreshment, and from refreshment to labour, that profit and pleasure may be the result.
Brother Senior Warden, your place in the lodge.
In the west.
Why are you placed there?
To mark the setting sun, to close the lodge by command of the Worshipful Master, after having seen that every brother has had his due.
The Master's place.
In the east.
Why is he placed there?
As the sun rises in the east to open and enliven the day, so the Worshipful Master is placed in the east to open the lodge and employ and instruct the brethren in Freemasonry.
The lodge being duly formed, before I declare it open, let us invoke the assistance of the great Architect of the universe in all our undertakings. May our labours, thus begun in order, be conducted in peace and closed in harmony.
So mote it be.
Brethren, in the name of the great Architect of the universe, I declare the lodge duly open for the purposes of Freemasonry in the first degree. Brethren, brother is this evening a candidate to be passed to the second degree. but it is first requisite that he gives proofs of proficiency in the former. I shall therefore proceed to put the necessary questions. Where were you first prepared to be made a mason?
In my heart.
In my heart.
Where next?
In a convenient room adjoining the lodge.
In a convenient room adjoining the lodge.
Describe the mode of your preparation.
I was divested of metal and hoodwinked.
I was divested of metal and hoodwinked.
My right arm, left breast and knee were made bare.
My right arm, left breast and knee were made bare.
My right heel was slipshod.
My right heel was slipshod.
And a cable tow placed about my neck.
And a cable tow placed about my neck.
Where were you made a mason?
In the body of the lodge, just perfect and regular.
In the body of a lodge, just, perfect and regular.
And when?
When the sun was at its meridian.
When the sun was at its meridian.
In this country, Freemasons' lodges are usually held in the evening. How do you account for that which at first view appears a paradox?
The Earth constantly revolving on its axis in its orbit around the sun.
The Earth constantly revolving on its axis in its orbit around the sun.
And Freemasonry being universally spread over its surface.
And Freemasonry being universally spread over its surface.
It necessarily follows that the sun must always be at its meridian with respect to Freemasonry.
It necessarily follows that the sun must always be at its meridian with respect to Freemasonry.
What is Freemasonry?
A peculiar system of morality.
A peculiar system of morality.
Veiled in allegory and illustrated by symbols.
Veiled in allegory and illustrated by symbols.
Name the grand principles upon which the order is founded.
Brotherly love, relief and truth.
Brotherly love, relief and truth.
Who are fit and proper persons to be made masons?
Just, upright and free men.
Just, upright and free men.
Of mature age, sound judgment and strict morals.
Of mature age, sound judgment and strict morals.
How do you know yourself to be a mason?
By the regularity of my initiation.
By the regularity of my initiation.
Repeated trials and approbations.
Repeated trials and approbations.
And a willingness at all times to undergo an examination when properly called on.
And a willingness at all times to undergo an examination when properly called on.
How do you demonstrate the proof of your being a mason to others?
By signs, tokens, and the perfect points of my entrance.
By signs, tokens, and the perfect points of my entrance.
These are the usual questions. I will put others if any brother wishes me to do so.
Very well answered, worshipful master.
Do you pledge your honour as a man and your fidelity as a mason that you will steadily persevere through the ceremony of being passed to the degree of a fellowcraft?
I do.
I do.
Do you likewise pledge yourself that you will conceal what I shall now impart to you with the same strict caution as the other secrets in Masonry?
I do.
I do.
Then I will entrust you with a test of merit, which is a pass script and a pass word leading to the degree to which you seek to be admitted. The parscript is given. This parscript demands a password which is, denotes, and is usually depicted in our lodges by You must be particularly careful to remember this word, as without it you cannot gain admission into a lodge in a superior degree. Pass.
Salute the worshipful master as a mason.
Brethren, assist me to open the lodge in the second degree. Brother Junior Warden, what is the first care of every fellow craft Freemason?
To see that the lodge is properly tiled.
Direct that duty to be done.
Brother Inner Guard, see that the lodge is properly tiled.
Brother Junior Warden, the lodge is properly tiled.
Worshipful Master, the lodge is properly tiled.
Brother Senior Warden, the next care.
To see that the brethren appear to order as masons.
To order, brethren, in the first degree. Brother Junior Warden, are you a fellow craft Freemason?
I am, worshipful Master. Try me and prove me.
By what instrument in architecture will you be proved?
The square.
What is a square?
An angle of 90 degrees, or the fourth part of a circle.
Being yourself acquainted with the proper method, you will prove the brethren craftsmen, and demonstrate that proof to me by copying their example.
Brethren, it is the worshipful Master's command that you prove yourselves craftsmen. Worshipful Master, the brethren have proved themselves craftsmen, and in obedience to your command, I thus copy their example.
Brother Junior Warden, I acknowledge the correctness of the sign. Before we open the lodge in the second degree, Let us supplicate the grand geometrician of the universe, that the rays of heaven may shed their influence to enlighten us in the paths of virtue and science.
So mote it be.
Brethren, in the name of the grand geometrician of the universe, I declare the lodge duly open on the square for the instruction and improvement of craftsmen.
Brother Junior Warden, there is a report.
Worshipful Master, there is a report.
Brother Junior Warden, inquire who wants admission.
Brother Innerguard, see who wants admission.
Whom have you there?
Brother who has been regularly initiated into Freemasonry and has made such progress as he hopes will recommend him to be passed to the degree of a fellowcraft, for which ceremony he is properly prepared.
How does he hope to obtain the privileges of the second degree?
By the help of God, the assistance of the square, and the benefit of a password.
Is he in possession of the password?
Will you prove him?
Halt, while I report to the Worshipful Master. Worshipful Master, brother who has been regularly initiated into Freemasonry and has made such progress as he hopes will recommend him to be passed to the degree of fellowcraft, for which ceremony he is properly prepared.
How does he hope to obtain the privileges of the second degree?
By the help of God, the assistance of the square, and the benefit of a password.
We acknowledge the propriety of the aid by which he seeks admission. Do you, Brother Innerguard, vouch that he is in possession of the password?
I do, Worshipful Master.
Then let him be admitted in due form. Brother Deacons.
Advance as a Mason.
Let the candidate kneel while the blessing of heaven is invoked on what we are about to do. We supplicate the continuance of thine aid, O merciful Lord, on behalf of ourselves and him who kneels before thee. May the work begun in thy name be continued to thy glory and evermore established in us by obedience to thy precepts. So mote it be. Let the candidate rise.
Salute the worshipful master as a Mason. Advance to the junior warden as such, showing the sign and communicating the token and word.
Have you anything to communicate?
I have.
I have.
What is this?
The grip or token
The grip or token
of an entered apprentice Freemason.
of an entered apprentice Freemason.
What does it demand?
A word.
A word.
Give me that word freely and at length. Pass.
Salute the senior warden as a Mason.
The brethren will take notice that brother who has been regularly initiated into Freemasonry is about to pass in view before them to show that he is the candidate properly prepared to be passed to the degree of a fellowcraft.
Salute the worshipful master as a mason. Salute the junior warden as a mason. Advance to the senior warden as such, showing a sign and communicating the pass grip and password you received from the worshipful master previously to leaving the lodge.
Have you anything to communicate?
I have.
I have.
What is this?
The pass grip,
The pass grip
leading from the first to the second degree.
leading from the first to the second degree.
What does this pass grip demand?
A password.
A password.
Give me that password. What does denote? How is it usually depicted in our lodges?
By
By an
Pass. Worshipful Master, I present to you, brother, a candidate properly prepared to be passed to the second degree.
Brother Senior Warden, you will direct the Senior Deacon to instruct the candidate to advance to the east in due form.
Brother Senior Deacon, it is the Worshipful Master's command that you instruct the candidate to advance to the east in due form.
The method of advancing from west to east in this degree is by as if ascending a winding staircase. For your information, I will go through them, and you will afterwards copy me.
As in every case, the degrees in Freemasonry are to be kept separate and distinct. Another obligation will now be required of you, in many respects similar to the former. Are you willing to take it?
I am.
Then you will kneel on your right knee. Your left foot formed in a square. Place your right hand on the volume of the sacred law, while your left arm will be supported in the angle of the square. Repeat your name at length and say after me. I, in the presence of the Grand Geometrician of the universe,
in the presence of the Grand Geometrician of the universe,
and of this worthy and worshipful lodge,
and of this worthy and worshipful lodge,
of Fellowcraft Freemasons,
of Fellowcraft Freemasons,
regularly held, assembled, and properly dedicated, of my own free will and accord, do hereby and hereon solemnly promise and swear that I will always heal, conceal, and never improperly reveal any or either of the secrets or mysteries of or belonging to the second degree in Freemasonry, denominated the Fellowcrafts. To him who is but an entered apprentice,
to him who is but an entered apprentice,
any more than I would either of them,
any more than I would either of them,
to the uninstructed and popular world, who are not Masons.
to the uninstructed and popular world, who are not Masons.
I further solemnly pledge myself
I further solemnly pledge myself
to act as a true and faithful craftsman,
to act as a true and faithful craftsman,
answer signs,
answer signs,
obey summonses,
obey summonses,
and maintain the principles inculcated in the former degree.
and maintain the principles inculcated in the former degree.
These several points I solemnly swear to observe
These several points I solemnly swear to observe
without evasion,
without evasion,
equivocation,
equivocation,
or mental reservation of any kind.
or mental reservation of any kind.
So help me Almighty God,
So help me Almighty God,
and keep me steadfast
and keep me steadfast
in this my solemn obligation
in this my solemn obligation
of a fellowcraft Freemason.
of a fellowcraft Freemason.
As a pledge of your fidelity, and to render this a solemn obligation, which might otherwise be considered but a serious promise, you will seal it with your lips twice on the volume of the sacred law. Your progress in masonry is marked by the position of the square and compasses. When you were made an entered apprentice, both points were hid. In this degree, one is disclosed, implying that you are now in the midway of Freemasonry, superior to an entered apprentice, but inferior to that to which I trust you will hereafter attain. Rise, newly Having taken the solemn obligation of a fellowcraft, I shall proceed to entrust you with the secrets of the degree. You will therefore advance to me as at your initiation. You will now take another short pace towards me with your left foot, bringing the right heel into its hollow as before. That is the second regular step in Freemasonry, and it is in this position that the secrets of the degree are communicated. They consist, as in the former instance, of a sign, token, and word, with this difference, that in this degree the sign is of a threefold nature. The first part of the threefold sign is called the sign of and is given by, emblematically to shield the repository of your secrets from the attacks of the insidious. The second part is called the or sign of and is given by. This took its rise at the time that Joshua fought the battles of the Lord. When it was in this position, he prayed fervently to the Almighty to continue the light of day, that he might complete the overthrow of his enemies. The third part is and is given by. This is in allusion to the symbolic penalty at one time included in the obligation in this degree, which implied that, as a man of honour, a fellowcraft Freemason would rather have had than improperly disclose the secrets entrusted to him. The full penalty was that of the grip or token is given by. This grip or token demands a word to be given with the same strict caution as that in the former degree. That is to say, never at length, but always by letters or syllables, to enable you to do which, I must tell you that the word is. As in the course of the ceremony, you will be called on for this word. The senior deacon will now dictate the answers you are to give. What is this?
The grip or token
The grip or token
of a fellowcraft Freemason.
of a fellowcraft Freemason.
What does it demand?
A word.
A word.
Give me that word.
I was taught to be cautious in this degree,
I was taught to be cautious in this degree,
as well as in the former.
as well as in the former.
I will letter or halve it with you.
I will letter or halve it with you.
Which you please, and begin. This word is derived from the right-hand pillar at the porchway or entrance of King Solomon's temple, so named after the assistant high priest who officiated at its dedication. The import of the word is to and when conjoined with that in the former degree, for God said in pass
Brother Junior Warden, I present to you, brother, on his being passed to the second degree.
I will thank brother to advance to me as a fellowcraft. Have you anything to communicate?
I have.
I have.
What is this?
The grip or token
The grip or token
of a Fellowcraft Freemason.
of a Fellowcraft Freemason.
What does it demand?
A word.
A word.
Give me that word.
I was taught to be cautious in this degree
I was taught to be cautious in this degree
as well as in the former.
as well as in the former.
I will letter or halve it with you.
I will letter or halve it with you.
Which you please, and begin. Pass.
Brother Senior Warden, I present to you, brother, on his being passed to the second degree.
I will thank brother to advance to me as a Fellowcraft, first as an entered apprentice. What is that?
The second regular step in Freemasonry.
The second regular step in Freemasonry.
Do you bring anything else?
I do. I do.
I do.
What is that?
The sign of
The sign of
emblematically to shield the repository of my secrets
emblematically to shield the repository of my secrets
from the attacks of the insidious.
from the attacks of the insidious.
Do you bring anything else?
I do.
I do.
What is that?
The hat or sign of
Or
When did it take its rise?
at the time that Joshua fought the battles of the Lord,
at the time that Joshua fought the battles of the Lord,
when it was in this position
when it was in this position
that he prayed fervently
that he prayed fervently
to the Almighty to continue the light of day,
to the Almighty to continue the light of day,
that he might complete the overthrow of his enemies.
that he might complete the overthrow of his enemies.
Do you bring anything else?
I do.
I do.
What is that? To what does it allude?
The symbolic penalty of this degree,
The symbolic penalty of this degree,
which implied that,
which implied that,
as a man of honour,
as a man of honour,
a Fellowcraft Freemason
a Fellowcraft Freemason
would rather have had his
would rather have had his
than improperly disclose the secrets entrusted to him.
than improperly disclose the secrets entrusted to him.
Have you anything to communicate?
I have.
I have.
What is this?
The grip or token
The grip or token
of a Fellowcraft Freemason.
of a Fellowcraft Freemason.
What does it demand?
A word.
A word.
Give me that word.
I was taught to be cautious in this degree
I was taught to be cautious in this degree,
as well as in the former.
as well as in the former.
I will letter or halve it with you.
I will letter or halve it with you.
Which you please, and begin. Whence is this word derived?
From the right-hand pillar at the porchway or entrance
From the right-hand pillar at the porchway or entrance
of King Solomon's temple,
of King Solomon's temple,
so named after
so named after
the assistant high priest who officiated at its dedication.
the assistant high priest who officiated at its dedication.
The import of the word?
To
And what when conjoined with that in the former degree?
for God said in
For God said in
Pass. Worshipful Master, I present to you, brother, on his being passed to the second degree for some further mark of your favour.
Brother Senior Warden, I delegate you to invest him with the distinguishing badge of a Fellowcraft Freemason.
Brother, by the Worshipful Master's command, I invest you with the distinguishing badge of a Fellowcraft Freemason to mark the progress you have made in the science.
Let me add to what has been stated by the Senior Warden, that the badge with which you have now been invested points out that, as a craftsman, you are expected to make the liberal arts and sciences your future study, that you may the better be enabled to discharge your duties as a mason, and estimate the wonderful works of the Almighty. Brother Senior Deacon, you will place our brother at the southeast part of the lodge.
right foot across the lodge, left foot down the lodge. Pay attention to the Worshipful Master.
Masonry being a progressive science, when you were made and entered apprentice, you were placed at the northeast part of the lodge to show that you were newly admitted. You are now placed at the southeast part to mark the progress you have made in the science. You now stand to all external appearance a just and upright Fellowcraft Freemason, and I give it you in strong terms of recommendation ever to continue and act as such. And as I trust the import of the former charge neither is nor ever will be effaced from your memory, I shall content myself with observing that, as in the previous degree you made yourself acquainted with the principles of moral truth and virtue, you are now permitted to extend your researches into the hidden mysteries of nature and science. I now present to you the working tools of a Fellowcraft Freemason. They are the square, the level, and the plumb rule. The square is to try and adjust rectangular corners of buildings and assist in bringing rude matter into due form. The level, to lay levels and prove horizontals. The plumb rule, to try and adjust uprights while fixing them on their proper bases. But as we are not all operative masons, but rather free and accepted or speculative, we apply these tools to our morals. In this sense, the square teaches us to regulate our lives and actions according to the Masonic line and rule, and to harmonize our conduct in this life so as to render us acceptable to that divine being from whom all goodness springs, and to whom we must give an account of all our actions. The level demonstrates that we are all sprung from the same stock, partakers of the same nature, and sharers in the same hope. And although distinctions among men are necessary to preserve subordination, yet ought no eminence of situation make us forget that we are brothers. For he who is placed on the lowest spoke of fortune's wheel is equally entitled to our regard, as a time will come, and the wisest of us knows not how soon, when all distinctions save those of goodness and virtue shall cease, and death, the grand leveller of all human greatness, reduce us to the same state. The infallible plumb rule, which, like Jacob's ladder, connects heaven and earth, is the criterion of rectitude and truth. It teaches us to walk justly and uprightly before God and man, neither turning to the right nor left from the paths of virtue, not to be an enthusiast, persecutor, or slanderer of religion, neither bending towards avarice, injustice, malice, revenge, nor the envy and contempt of mankind, but giving up every selfish propensity which might injure others. To steer the bark of this life over the seas of passion without quitting the helm of rectitude is the highest perfection to which human nature can attain. And as the builder raises his column by the level and perpendicular, so ought every mason to conduct himself towards this world, to observe a due medium between avarice and profusion, to hold the scales of justice with equal poise, to make his passions and prejudices coincide with the just line of his conduct, and in all his pursuits to have eternity in view. Thus the square teaches morality, the level equality, and the plumb rule justness and uprightness of life and actions. Thus, by square conduct, level steps, and upright intentions, we hope to ascend to those immortal mansions whence all goodness emanates. You are now at liberty to retire in order to restore yourself to your personal comforts, and on your return to the lodge, I shall call your attention to an explanation of the tracing board.
Salute the worshipful master as a fellowcraft. First, as an entered apprentice.
Brother Junior Warden, there is a report.
The candidate on his return.
Worshipful Master, the candidate on his return.
Admit him.
Salute the worshipful master as a fellowcraft. First, as an entered apprentice.
when the temple at Jerusalem was completed by King Solomon, its costliness and splendor became objects of admiration to the surrounding nations, and its fame spread to the remotest parts of the then known world. There was nothing, however, in connection with this magnificent structure more remarkable, or that more particularly struck the attention, than the two great pillars which were placed at the porchway or entrance. That on the left was called, which denotes in; that on the right, which denotes to; and when conjoined, for God said, in this mine house to stand firm forever. The height of those pillars was 17 cubits and a half each, their circumference 12, their diameter 4. They were formed hollow, the better to serve as archives to masonry, for therein were deposited the constitutional rolls. Being formed hollow, the outer rim or shell was 4 inches or a hand's breadth in thickness. They were made of molten brass, and were cast in the plain of Jordan, in the clay ground between Succoth and Zeradatha, where King Solomon ordered those and all his holy vessels to be cast. The superintendent of the casting was Hiram Abiff. Those pillars were adorned with 2 chapiters, each 5 cubits high. The chapiters were enriched with network, lily work, and pomegranates. Network, from the connection of its meshes, denotes unity. Lily work, from its whiteness, peace. And pomegranates, from the exuberance of their seed, denote plenty. There were 2 rows of pomegranates on each chapiter, 100 in a row. Those pillars were further adorned with 2 spherical balls, on which were delineated maps of the celestial and terrestrial globes, pointing out masonry universal. They were considered finished when the network or canopy was thrown over them. They were set up as a memorial to the children of Israel of that miraculous pillar of fire and cloud, which had 2 wonderful effects. The fire gave light to the Israelites during their escape from their Egyptian bondage, and the cloud proved darkness to Pharaoh and his followers when they attempted to overtake them. King Solomon ordered them to be placed at the entrance of the temple, as the most proper and conspicuous situation for the children of Israel to have the happy deliverance of their forefathers continually before their eyes in going to and returning from divine worship. At the building of King Solomon's temple, an immense number of masons were employed. They consisted of entered apprentices and fellowcrafts. The entered apprentices received a weekly allowance of corn, wine, and oil. The fellowcrafts were paid their wages in specie, which they went to receive in the middle chamber of the temple. They got there by the porchway or entrance on the south side. After our ancient brethren had entered the porch, they arrived at the foot of the winding staircase, which led to the middle chamber. Their ascent was opposed by the junior warden, who demanded of them the pass-grip and pass-word, leading from the first to the second degree. The pass-grip you are all in possession of, and the pass-word, I dare say, you recollect is, denotes, and is here depicted, the word dates its origin from the time that an army of Ephraimites crossed the river Jordan in a hostile manner against Jephthah, the renowned Gileaditish general. The reason they assigned for this unfriendly visit was that they had not been called out to partake of the honours of the Ammonitish war, but their true aim was to partake of the rich spoils with which, in consequence of that war, Jephthah and his army were then laden. The Ephraimites had always been considered a clamorous and turbulent people, but then broke out into open violence, and, after many severe taunts to the Gileadites in general, threatened to destroy their victorious commander and his house with fire. Jephthah, on his part, tried all lenient means to appease them, but, finding these ineffectual, had recourse to rigorous ones. He therefore drew out his army, gave the Ephraimites battle, defeated and put them to flight, and to render his victory decisive, and to secure himself from like molestation in future, he sent detachments of his army to secure the passages of the river Jordan, over which he knew the insurgents must of necessity attempt to go in order to regain their own country, giving strict orders to his guards that if a fugitive came that way, owning himself an Ephraimite, he should immediately be slain. But if he prevaricated, or said nay, a test word was to be put to him, to pronounce the word. They, from a defect in aspiration peculiar to their dialect, could not pronounce it properly, but called it, which small variation discovered their country and cost them their lives. And Scripture informs us that there fell on that day, on the field of battle, and on the banks of the Jordan, 42,000 Ephraimites. And as was then a test word to distinguish friend from foe, King Solomon afterwards caused it to be adopted as a password in a fellowcraft's lodge, to prevent any unqualified person ascending the after our ancient brethren had given those convincing proofs to the junior warden. He said, "Pass." They then passed up the winding staircase, consisting of 3, 5, 7 or more steps. 3. Rule a lodge. 5. Hold a lodge. 7 or more make it perfect. The 3 who rule a lodge are the master and his 2 wardens. The 5 who hold a lodge are the master, 2 wardens, and 2 fellow crafts. The 7 who make it perfect are 2 entered apprentices, added to the former 5. 3 rule a lodge because there were but 3 Grand Masters who bore sway at the building of the first temple at Jerusalem, namely Solomon, king of Israel, Hiram, king of Tyre, and Hiram Abiff. 5 hold a lodge in allusion to the 5 noble orders of architecture, namely the Tuscan, Doric, Ionic, Corinthian, and Composite. 7 or more make a perfect lodge, because King Solomon was 7 years and upwards in building, completing, and dedicating the temple at Jerusalem to God's service. They have, likewise, a further allusion to the 7 liberal arts and sciences, namely grammar, rhetoric, logic, arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy. After our ancient brethren had gained the summit of the winding staircase, they arrived at the door of the middle chamber, which they found open, but properly tiled against all under the degree of a fellow craft, by the senior warden, who demanded of them the sign, token, and word of a fellow craft. After they had given him those convincing proofs, he said, "Pass." They then passed into the middle chamber of the temple, where they went to receive their wages, which they did without scruple or diffidence. Without scruple, well knowing they were justly entitled to them, and without diffidence from the great reliance they placed on the integrity of their employers in those days. When our ancient brethren were in the middle chamber of the temple, their attention was peculiarly drawn to certain Hebrew characters, which are here depicted by the letter G, denoting God, the grand geometrician of the universe, to whom we must all submit, and whom we ought humbly to adore.
Brethren, assist me to close the lodge in the 2nd degree. Brother Junior Warden, what is the constant care of every fellowcraft Freemason?
To prove the lodge close tiled.
Direct that duty to be done.
Brother Innerguard, prove the lodge close tiled.
Brother Junior Warden, the lodge is close tiled.
Worshipful Master, the lodge is close tiled.
Brother Senior Warden, the next care.
To see that the brethren appear to order as craftsmen.
To order, brethren, in the second degree. Brother Junior Warden, in this position, what have you discovered?
A sacred symbol.
Brother Senior Warden, where is it situated?
In the centre of the building.
To whom does it allude?
The grand geometrician of the universe.
Then, brethren, let us remember that wherever we are and whatever we do, he is with us, and his all-seeing eye observes us. And whilst we continue to act in conformity with the principles of the craft, let us not fail to discharge our duty to him with fervency and zeal. So mote it be. Brother Senior Warden, the labours of this degree being ended, you have my command to close the lodge.
Brethren, in the name of the grand geometrician of the universe, and by command of the worshipful Master, I close this Fellowcraft's lodge.
Happy have we met, happy may we part, and happy meet again.
Brethren, assist me to close the lodge. Brother Junior Warden, what is the constant care of every Mason?
To prove the lodge close tiled.
Direct that duty to be done.
Brother Innerguard, prove the lodge close tiled.
Brother Junior Warden, the lodge is close tiled.
Worshipful Master, the lodge is close tiled.
Brother Senior Warden, the next care.
To see that the brethren appear to order as masons.
To order, brethren, in the first degree. Brother Senior Warden, your constant place in the lodge.
In the west. In the west.
Why are you placed there?
As the sun sets in the west to close the day, so the Senior Warden is placed in the west to close the lodge by command of the worshipful Master, after having seen that every brother has had his due.
Brethren, before we close the lodge, let us, with all reverence and humility, express our gratitude to the great architect of the universe for favours already received. May he continue to preserve the order by cementing and adorning it with every moral and social virtue. So
mote it be.
Brother Senior Warden, The labours of the evening being ended, you have my command to close the lodge.
Brethren, in the name of the great architect of the universe and by command of the worshipful master, I close the lodge.
And it is closed accordingly until emergencies accepted, of which every brother will have due notice.
Brethren, nothing now remains but according to ancient custom to lock up our secrets in a safe repository, uniting in the act fidelity, fidelity, fidelity.